If you're watching this video, you may or may not be an electric car junkie like me. When it comes to electric vehicles, I have always had an open air, mainly because of their clean nature and also because I'm kind of getting sick of all the fumes produced by most gas-powered vehicles. Also because I'm just a super huge fan of Tesla, which introduced me to almost every other electric vehicle on the market. And electric vehicles are becoming better and better every day. As with anything with a seemingly long, bright future, electric vehicles have a pretty deep-rooted past, going as far back as the 19th century. So whether you're a Tesla fan, a Faraday Future lookout, an all-around EV or hybrid enthusiast, or just someone interested in electric vehicles, this video is for you. This is the history of electric vehicles. It all started back in the 1800s, around the year 1828. Who actually invented the first EV is uncertain, as several inventors have been given credit, but the timeline goes something like this. In 1828, Hungarian Enos Judlik invented a small-scale model car powered by an electric motor that he designed. This was sort of a small push which helped move things along a very tiny bit. A few years later, between 1832 and 1839, a Scottish inventor by the name of Robert Anderson invents the first crude electric carriage powered by non-rechargeable primary cells. It was a small carriage that looked like the first version of the railcars that you would see in San Francisco. Later in 1835, another small-scale electric car was designed by Professor Strating of Groningen, Holland, and this was built by his assistant Christopher Becker. In the same year, Thomas Davenport, a blacksmith from Brandon, Vermont, built a small-scale electric car. Essentially, he created the first electric vehicle that used a small locomotive as its engine. This type of vehicle did not need to stick on wheels, as it had actual wheels and a way to control them. Davenport was also the inventor of the first American-built DC motor. Skip forward a few years to 1942, and Thomas Davenport and Scotsman Robert Davidson continued to work on their designs for the electric vehicle. They also continued to work with non-rechargeable electric batteries, which were used to power their inventions. Later on, Gaston Plant invented a better storage battery, and Camille Faure further improved the storage battery in 1881, improving the storage battery's ability to supply current and invent the basic lead-acid battery used in automobiles. Though all this was going on at the time, it wasn't until the 1890s that electric vehicles really started to take off in popularity and functionality. By the time 1891 arrived, William Morrison of Des Moines, Iowa, completed his build of the first successful electric automobile in the United States. It was a 6-passenger vehicle capable of a top speed of 14 miles per hour. Not the greatest, but it was the beginning of great things to come. This was one thing which marked out the push towards electric on not just one continent. For the next 20 years, electric cars were very popular amongst Americans, and in cities like New York, Boston, and Chicago, 1/3 of the vehicles were battery powered. Electric taxi cabs were dominating all over BT cities as well. These battery-powered vehicles were doing well due to a few factors. Compared to their competitors, they were quiet, easier to maneuver, and did not release a foul odor. On the other hand, gas-powered cars had gears that needed to be switched and needed to be started up by a hand crank. It's clear to note that while electric cars were moving into the spotlight, so were gas-powered vehicles, and at the same time, steam was slowly dying. In the late 1800s, France and Great Britain were the first nations to support the widespread development of electric vehicles. In 1899, a Belgian-built electric racing car called La Germaine Contente, and I definitely read that name, set a world record for a land speed of 68 miles per hour. It was designed by Camille Genatzi. In 1897, the first electric taxis hit the streets of New York City early in the year. The Pope Manufacturing Company of Connecticut became the first large-scale American electric automobile manufacturer. In 1989, with the belief that electricity will run all vehicles in the near future, Thomas Alva Edison begins his mission to create a long-lasting, powerful battery for commercial vehicles. Though his research yields some improvements to the alkaline battery, he ultimately abandons this quest 1 decade later. 1,900 hits, and of the 4,192 cars produced in the United States, 28% are powered by electricity, and electric vehicles represent about 1/3 of all cars found on the roads of New York City, Boston, and Chicago. Electric vehicles had many advantages over their competitors in the early 1900s. They did not have the vibration, smell, and noise associated with gasoline-powered cars. Changing gears on gasoline cars was the most difficult part of driving, and electric vehicles did not require gear changes. While steam-powered cars also had no gear shifting, they suffered from long startup times of up to 45 minutes on cold mornings. The steam cars had less range before needing water compared to an electric car's range on a single charge. The only good roads of the period were in towns, which meant that most commutes were local, a perfect situation for electric vehicles since their range was limited. The electric vehicle was the preferred choice of many because it did not require a manual effort to start, like with the hand crank on gasoline vehicles, and there was no wrestling with a gear shifter. So let's skip forward 8 years in time when Henry Ford introduces the mass-produced and gasoline-powered Model T, which had a profound effect on the US automobile market. It was Henry Ford's mass-produced Model T that dealt a huge blow to the electric car. The Model T made gasoline-powered cars widely available and affordable. By 1912, the gasoline car cost only $650, while an electric Roadster sold for $1,750. While all this growth was great and all that, it's important to note that around this time, when electric vehicles were at their highest growth position, was when they fell down in popularity and almost went into extinction. In 1912, Charles Kettering invents the first practical electric car starter. Kettering's invention makes gasoline-powered cars more alluring to customers by eliminating the unwieldy hand crank starter, and ultimately helps pave the way for the electric car's demise. During the 1920s, the electric car ceases to be a viable commercial product. The electric car's downfall is attributable to a number of factors, including the desire for long-distance vehicles, the lack of horsepower, and the ready availability of gasoline. The decline of the electric vehicle was due to an abundance of petroleum and the fact that technology improved for gasoline-powered cars. It became obvious that gas cars were superior to electric cars. As more gas stations appeared, less electric cars would be seen on the roads. By the time it was 1930, there were no electric cars to be seen at all. Decades later, when gas prices were soaring and oil was very rare to find, the US Congress allowed the Department of Energy to help fund motor companies to rebuild electric cars. When the first set of electric cars were re-released, they were actually very slow. By the 1970s, concerns about the soaring price of oil, peaking with the Arab oil embargo of 1973, and the growing environmental movement result in renewed interest in electric cars from both consumers and producers. In 1972, Victor Wook, the godfather of the hybrid, builds the first fully powered, full-size hybrid vehicle out of a 1972 Buick Skylark provided by General Motors for the 1970 Federal Clean Car Incentive Program. The Environmental Protection Association later kills the program in 1976. By 1974, Vanguard Sebring City Car makes its debut at the Electric Vehicle Symposium in Washington, D.C. The city car had a top speed of over 30 miles per hour and a reliable warm weather range of 40 miles. By 1975, the company is the 6th largest automaker in the US, but is dissolved only a few years later. The rise back up to electric was a rocky road, but things smoothed out as time went by and the technology got better. In 1976, Congress would pass the Electric and Hybrid Vehicle Research, Development and Demonstration Act. The law was intended to spur the development of new technologies, including improved batteries, motors, and other hybrid electric components. Skipping back a little bit, in the early 60s, the Boyertown Auto Body Works jointly formed the Butronic Truck Company with Smith Delivery Vehicles Limited of England and the Excite division of the Electric Battery Company. Butronic worked with General Electric from 1973 to 1983 to produce 175 utility vans for use in the utility industry and to demonstrate the capabilities of battery-powered vehicles. Butronic also developed and produced about 20 passenger buses in the mid-1970s. In 1975, the United States Postal Service purchased 350 electric delivery jeeps from the American Motor Company to be used in a test program. These jeeps had a top speed of 50 miles per hour and a range of 40 miles at a speed of 40 miles per hour. Heating and defrosting were accomplished with a gas heater and the recharge time was 10 hours. pretty long compared to what we have today. In 1988, Roger Smith, the CEO of GM, agrees to fund research efforts to build a practical consumer electric car. GM teams up with California's AeroVironment to design what would become the EV1, which one employee called the world's most efficient production vehicle. By 1990, the California Air Resources Board, or CARB, passes its zero-emission vehicle ZEV mandate, which requires 2% of the state's vehicles to have no emissions by 1998 and 10% by 2003. The law is repeatedly weakened over the next decade to reduce the number of pure ZEVs that it requires. In response, automakers developed electric models including the Chrysler van, Ford Ranger EV pickup truck, GM EV1 and S10 EV pickup, Honda EV Plus hatchback, Nissan lithium battery Ultra EV miniwagon, and Toyota RAV4 EV. The automakers were actually accused of pandering to the wishes of CARB in order to continue to be allowed to sell cars in the lucrative Californian market, while failing to adequately promote their electric vehicles in order to create the impression that the consumers were not interested in the cars, all the while joining oil industry lobbyists in vigorously protesting CARB's mandate. GM's program came under particular scrutiny. In an unusual move, consumers were not allowed to purchase EV1s, but were instead asked to sign close-end leases, meaning that the cars had to be returned to GM at the end of the lease period with no option of purchase, despite lessee interest in continuing to own the cars. Chrysler, Toyota, and a group of GM dealers sued CARB in federal court, leading to the eventual neutering of CARB's ZEV mandate. While all the bumps and problems of the electric vehicle industry in the second half of the 20th century helped show the world the promise of the technology, the true revival of electric vehicles did not happen until around the start of the 21st century. The first turning point many have suggested was the introduction of the Toyota Prius. Released in Japan in 1997, the Prius became the world's first mass-produced hybrid electric vehicle. In 2000, the Prius was released worldwide and it became an instant success with celebrities helping to raise the profile of the car. To make the Prius reality, Toyota used a nickel metal hydride battery, a technology that was supported by the Energy Department's research. Since then, rising gasoline prices and growing concern about carbon pollution have helped make the Prius one of the best-selling hybrid vehicles worldwide. Nearly 18,000 units were sold during the first production year. By 2006, Tesla Motors would publicly unveil their sporty Tesla Roadster at the San Francisco International Auto Show in November. The first production Roadsters would be sold in 2008 with a base price listing of $98,950. Tesla Motors would start producing a luxury electric sports car that could go more than 200 miles on a single charge. In 2010, Tesla received a $465 million loan from the Department of Energy's Loan Programs Office, a loan that Tesla repaid a full 9 years early, to establish a manufacturing facility in California. In the short time since then, Tesla has won wide acclaim for its cars and has become the largest auto industry employer in California. By this time, not only are electric cars becoming more powerful, they also look like they're going to be paving the future for the automotive industry. By 2010, the Nissan Leaf was introduced in Japan and the United States. It became the first modern all-electric zero-tailpipe emission 5-door family hatchback to be produced for the mass market from a major manufacturer. As of January 2013, the Leaf is also available in Australia, Canada, and 17 European countries. From 2010 onward, the path for electric was clear, with Tesla releasing electric vehicles such as the Tesla Model S, Model 3, and Model X, as well as planning to release a few other electric vehicles. Other major electric vehicles released in this time included the BMW Brilliance Zenardo 1E, Chery EQ, Kia Soul EV, Volkswagen e-Golf, Mercedes-Benz B-Class Electric Drive, and Venucia E30, all of which I probably wrecked the names of. Even now, we are seeing even better looking electric vehicles by major car companies who are beginning to embrace it even more and more. If the right path is taken and electric vehicles are made to become even faster and more efficient in a few years, electric will take over a major chunk of the vehicle market worldwide. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, learned anything new or want more, feel free to click the subscribe button, hit the bell icon to be notified whenever a new video is released, leave a like and comment your thoughts down below. If you are feeling generous and want to help this channel out in producing better content, consider supporting this channel on Patreon. $1 goes an extremely long way. The link is in the description. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I will be seeing you sort of in the next video.